Mars has played an important role in the mythology and astrological traditions of human culture since ancient time, but it was with the invention of the telescope that scientists began to appreciate Mars for what it was, a planet similar to Earth and located almost right next door. By the 19th century, the resolution of telescopes improved to the point where astronomers were able to discern features of the surface of the red planet, and in 1877, Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli was able to create the first detailed map of Mars and noted the existence of strange features he called canali, Italian for canals. This gave rise to the myth of a Martian civilization, which would endure well into the 20th century. But thanks to many robotic missions sent to the red planet since the 1960s, we have learned that Mars is actually a very cold, dry, and inhospitable place, making it extremely difficult for life to thrive there. So, the question arises, could we humans eventually settle on Mars by transforming it into a habitable place? Could we really terraform Mars? Now, because we'll be covering a lot of things, I've cut this video into sections for you. You can find the sections in the description, and right by the description, you can actually find the subscribe button. It's quite insane. But anyways, let's get into the first part, warming Mars. As we know it, Mars is a cold planet, too cold for humans to survive there without heating technologies. But thankfully, we have plenty of experience in warming up planets. Inadvertently, through our centuries of carbon emissions, we have raised the surface temperature of the Earth through a simple greenhouse mechanism. We pump out a lot of carbon dioxide, which is really good at letting sunlight in and preventing thermal radiation from escaping back into space, so it acts like a giant invisible blanket over Earth. But if it works on Earth, maybe it could also work on Mars. As a matter of fact, Mars does have enormous deposits of water ice and frozen carbon dioxide in its polar caps, and some more hidden just underneath the surface across the planet. If we could somehow warm the poles, that might release enough carbon into the atmosphere to kickstart a greenhouse warming trend. All we would need to do is wait and watch for a few centuries for physics to do its thing and turn Mars into a much less nasty place. Unfortunately, this seemingly simple idea is probably not going to work. The first issue is developing the technology to warm the caps. Proposals have ranged from sprinkling dust all across the poles to building a giant space mirror to put some high beam action. But any ideas require radical leaps in technology, and a manufacturing presence in space far beyond of what we are currently capable of. For example, in the case of the space mirror, we would need to mine about 200,000 tons of aluminium in space, whereas currently, we are capable of mining, well, zero. And then there's the unfortunate realization that there simply isn't enough CO2 locked up in Mars to trigger a decent warming trend. If you could evaporate every molecule of carbon dioxide and water on Mars and get it into the atmosphere, the red planet would have less than 2% of the air pressure on Earth. You would need twice as much atmosphere to prevent the sweat and oils on your skin from boiling, and 10 times that much to not need a pressure suit. And then let's not even talk about the lack of oxygen. To counteract this lack of easily accessible greenhouse gases, there are some radical proposals. Maybe we could have factories devoted to pumping out chlorofluorocarbons, which are a really unpleasant greenhouse gas. Or maybe we could add in some ammonia-rich comets from the outer solar system. Ammonia itself is a great greenhouse blanket, and it eventually dissociates into harmless nitrogen, which makes up the bulk of our own atmosphere. Assuming we could overcome the technological challenges associated with these ideas, there's still one major hurdle, the lack of a magnetic field. Unless we protect Mars, every molecule that we pump into the atmosphere is vulnerable to getting blasted away by the solar wind. It's like trying to build a pyramid from desert sand. It's not going to be easy. But maybe we could build a giant electromagnet in space to deflect away the solar wind. Maybe we could girdle Mars with a superconductor, giving it an artificial magnetosphere. Naturally, we don't have nearly the sophistication to realize either of those solutions. Could we ever possibly terraform Mars and make it more hospitable? Sure, it's possible. There's no fundamental law of physics getting in our way. But don't hold your breath. After all, it's just a matter of time.